All right, so let's briefly take a look at where we left off. If I press play, you can see we have a sphere here that represents our player. It's got some physics, it falls, it rolls, it's doing pretty great on its own. So let's go ahead and take this circle here, name it player. Now, what I did is I went ahead and paused the video and I just kind of went through this art main characters folder here. And I like this ninja character here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and swap out this circle here and replace it with this first frame of this idle. So what we want to do first is select our idle here. Your pixel per unit here is probably set to 100. I set mine to 20 because it's going to make my frog a little bit bigger. And I'm going to select my player here, and I'm going to look for idle 3232 underscore 0, or you can just grab this and drop it in there. Or you can click up here and you can type in idle. And then, you can kind of start to keep going 32, 32. And then here's 6, 7, 5. And these are all roughly named the same thing, but here's idle 32, 32, 0. And you could double click that and that'll replace it in here as well. Another thing I want to do is on my player, I want to make sure that on my rigid body, there's a section called constraints. I want to freeze the rotation. Let's go ahead and save that as well. And now when I press play, with that rotation frozen, remember how our circle would fall and then it would roll off? Well, now he's going to slide. He's going to slide a little bit, but he's not going all the way down. Like if we had this unchecked, I'll actually show you that. What'll happen is he'll fall and then he'll roll down like a ball because we're using a circular rigid body here, or circular collider. With that said, so again, let's go back and let's freeze that on the rotation. And then on here, on our circle collider here, I'm gonna go ahead and click on this option here and I'm gonna grab the bottom. I'm just gonna place it at the bottom of his feet. So his feet are always the ones sort of touching or hitting it. And I can actually just press W here and just sort of move him to where our starting position is going to be in our game. And if you want to make it fun, you could press play and just let the player see, like visually, that that's where he's starting. All right, so let's go ahead and hit Control S to save that. All right, so let's go ahead and set up our idle animation here. So I'm going to right click on our player here and I'm going to go to, let's see. Actually, I thought you could just right click and add an animation component. There's another way of doing this where I can grab this idle and I can drag and drop it inside this scene. Let's try that again. Or actually drop it into the view, I believe. Huh, it's not doing it. That's okay. We're going to use these images to actually create a idle animation. So I'm going to go to window here and I'm just going to go ahead and click on animation and then grab my animation window here and I'm going to dock it here. And another thing I'm going to do is go to window and I'm going to go to animator. Now the animator, which is this guy right here, is used to transition between different animation states. Now a state could be like a walk, a run, an idle, or whatever. So for example, right now, I have my player here, and I'm actually going to lock this animator here so that it's on my player. And I'm also going to add a animator component. So add component, I'm going to type in animator. And then inside of my Ninja Frog here, I'm going to right click and I'm going to create a new, let's see. Did my frog have an animator on it? Let's see. There's our player. I have an animator here. No. So under Ninja Frog here, I'm going to go to create and then let's see. Animation up top here, animated controller. And I'm going to call this NF for Ninja Frog. And then it's just going to be controller. And there you can see it gave us any state, entry, and exit. Don't worry about right now about those. As we continue to progress and build out animations, you'll see how these fit together. So what I can do is I can actually grab, click on my animation here, and let's see. We'll create a, animation clip. And actually, if I double click this, you can see, here's the name of this animation clip. Now it doesn't have a name, so we'll have to go in here and, well, we could just rename it here. I'm going to click on this and I'm going to rename this idle. And I'm going to change this from seconds to frames. So traditionally in animation, you have from 0 to 24. You can see here sample size is set to 60 here. And what that's saying is essentially they're looking for a 60 frame animation. Now, traditionally in film and cartooning, we have 24 frames in 1 second. And if you look at our idle here, we only have 10 frames. So we need to cycle these so they're slow enough so that it it plays a nice animation. It's not too quick. So again, let's go ahead and set that up so you can see how that works. All right, so let's go ahead and select this first 0 frame and go to 10. I'm going to hold my left mouse button down and just drag and drop it inside of this animation window. Actually, I could probably just drop this whole thing in. Oh, we actually have to have our player selected so it knows what the animation is attached to. And then what I would do is with our player selected, let's see, actually, we need to go to our animator here, and we're going to drag this idle in here. And now on our player, you can see here, we don't have that animator attached yet. So let's see. I thought we created this, NF controller. So let's go to player here. Let's grab our NF controller and drag that in there. Now that's going to link this player and this animation controller to this animator here. And now we have this idle animation. So we can lock that. And then we can go to animation here and we can actually lock this. And I should be able to, at this point, grab all of these guys and drag them in here. Yeah, now that allows me to do that. Now, if I hit spacebar, you can see my player is idling. Now, just to refresh why, and he's going pretty quick. Why is our player idling and why did that work? Well, this animation, this idle, is inside of this idle. Remember, I dragged it in here, inside of this animation controller. And this animator controller is this one right here. It's this NF controller here. And where is this NF controller? It's inside of this animator game object here. So when I press play, it's actually cycling or playing this animation. See that? So if I press play here, you can see it cycles it. If I press play here, now my idle animation might not be set to loop, so it only goes once. So I can select my idle animation here and I can click loop time. And now when you see, if I press play, you'll see my idle animation looping. Now he's going super fast, which might be what you want. And there's a couple ways that we can adjust this time. And you can see here it's going at 60 frames per second, and that's one of them. So let's go back to our animation window here. And again, remember, we're on frames. And we can also go down here to set sample rate. And if I take this down to 24, and I hold control and I zoom out a little bit by scrolling my wheel to see more of it. Now what it's happening is 24 frames in a second. So roughly 12 frames would be half of a second. So now if I press play, you can see that it's playing a lot smoother and a lot slower. And it's taking about half a second for him to go through that idle. Now, if you want to, you can go into this animation, and I'm actually going to go to File, Save Project, so it saves that animation. And I could say, you know what, I would like him to idle for a full second. Now, this is set on once. So what I can do is I can actually grab this keyframe by holding the left mouse button down. And I could say, okay, let me take this one to 20, take this one to 18, let's take this one to 14. And I'm just going by multiples of 2, 12, 10, 8, 6, and it'll hold that on 2 frames. And then it could be a little bit quicker in the beginning. I don't mind. So let's press play and see how that looks. Now you can see it's a lot closer. And maybe I want his down to be a little bit faster, so I can grab this key here and I could shift that over. You can see now when he comes down, it's a little bit quicker. So you can actually play with each one of these keys. And if you zoom out, then again, you can kind of remember, he's only going to be in idle state for a little bit. He's always going to be playing some sort of shooting, jumping, or running animation. So as long as it's passable, that's fine. So we've got this, we've got that set up. Let's see, anything else? I'm going to go to File, Save, and then Save Project. And that should save all of the animation. So that's the idle state. What I would do is before the next tutorial is right now I would try to say, you know what, I'm going to do a hit. How do I do that hit where he gets hit? How am I going to do the fall? How am I going to do the double jump? Right? Where he does like this flip. Try to rewatch this part of the video and go back and make those. Actually, I want to show you one last thing. So let's go ahead and undo that 10 frames per second. Say you want the entire animation or the moving of those around to be to last for 10 seconds. Let me stop this. You can actually just change your sample 0 to 10. And what that'll do, and I press the enter on there, is that turned my sample rate to 10 frames a second. So now when I press play, you can see it takes a whole second to do that frog animation. I kind of like what I had before, but I don't really want to go back and redo it just because of the sake of time. So I'm going to hit Control S to save this and make sure I save my project. And the reason why I keep pushing to save your project is because if you don't save your project, you can get into a habit of not seeing why certain things aren't saving. Anyway, that's it for this lesson.